Uh, Welcome. So, as you can see here today, we have a different stage. So, we're in Barcelona visiting, well, setting up an installation, but also visiting a friend. So, this is not our usual setup. For those who are going to start joining, will be incredible to let us know where you guys are coming from and say hello. We have a super special guest today in the HQ, and I'm really happy to share with you live from Barcelona. So, before I start, let me just tell you about the creator sessions. So, as if you're here for the first time, so these sessions are here to inspire students and creators from all over the world, to connect them with their inner mind and processes by sharing top artists and creators in the immersive and interactive technology. Every month, we are talking with a creator in their industry, and we go live on our YouTube and Twitch channels. Thank you so much for your contribution and for being here today. So please, if you just joined the session, let us know where are you tuning from. We would like to say hello and welcome to this session. I'm just gonna here welcome to Marcus. Hello, buddy. Hello, Marcus. Welcome. Really nice to see you again. Can you hear
Hello,
us?
hi.
Hey,
Just had to
hey,
find
hey.
the unmute button. Hello,
Yes.
everyone.
So we have a lot of people here tuning from. Let me know. Let me just read a bit where are people tuning in from. But I want to give you a huge thank you for being with us today. I know you guys are super busy, and we just saw each other in Barcelona at off, and again we're here, and then we're gonna soon be present in the digital input exhibit. And I'm super excited to meet you here because like a lot of the people who are in this call, they know your studio, they know the work that you guys are doing. It's one of the those studios that are a legend and pioneers in the field of what you guys do with communicating and making storytelling with images and with technology and with visuals. You have a super special and advanced aesthetic, if you want to call it that way. And I want to ask you, like, the first question that we ask to every creator, like, how did you start into this industry? Like, what was the first thing that you were like saying, like, yeah, I want to do this for my rest of my life, or I want to build a studio, or you didn't know you went to build a studio, right?
Oh, wow, that's the big questions. Well, basically, we left art school, packed a van, and drove to London. And that's pretty much it. I mean, okay, maybe. So maybe there's a little bit more to it. So yeah, well, depends how far you want to go back, but I think the thing is, I guess, in my sort of art student years, I've discovered a love for new media and everything that moves, everything that's interactive and kind of alive, coming alive through code. And there was obviously a precedent. So at some point, I went to London to just do an internship in an agency. I really hated that internship because I had to change, I think, the sounds on the Channel 5 kid website or something like that. So I got a little bit frustrated, and luckily I met someone in a pub, like outside of the of that agency. There was a bar, and in that bar, I met a special person who was a tutor at one point in the university. We had a good connection. He was part of the Tomato and Anti-Rom collective. They were basically legendary in the 90s or in the early 2000s. Part of a group called Underworld, and essentially this one guy tells me, "Hey, I'm really stressed. I need a developer and designer," and I jumped on board. And I think a week later, we were already in New York doing a big interactive installation. And for me, it was a total adrenaline kick. How your life could change one night in a bar, and a week later you're traveling. And I think it was clear from that point that I wanted that London international design experience. And yeah, so years later, we literally just did that, basically.
It's interesting because a lot of the stories that we have been talking or discussing in this session, they tend to be really similar in the way, like there's some accidents that happen in their life, and they ended up doing this type of work. But what really interests me from your studio is this like focus on the aesthetics and the visual, like that very little studios have nowadays. And I wanted to tell us a little bit more about how you come up with that relation, like, because when you enter to your website, it's not a usual website, like it's not something that you're used to see. It's something like, oh my god, this is something very like unique in the thing that I see or the thing that I experience as well. And how was that, like how was that change into like testing into a more advanced systems with visuals as well?
Well, let me see. I may I may have a slide about that. Where is it? I mean, I think it's maybe worth at this point mention a little bit about the name and where it comes from.
That'll be great.
And let me just find this slide. Share my screen. Okay, I hope this is gonna work for you guys. So I'm gonna go back to some bits that I presented at off.
Yes, please.
I hope. Is it here? Oh no, it's in a different presentation.
Don't worry.
I just saw it a minute ago. Excuse me. All the secret things I probably should.
Don't worry.
Give me 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that I wanted to also mention to the audience that are here with Phil is that like this is first studios that have been experimenting with different technologies and different methodologies and approach of design as well. It's interesting to see that their approach is also related to graphic design, like a lot of their way they relate and how people experience the technology, like, and that's something that I really love about the studio. And that's something how it's been very unique in the type of work that they do. So you got it?
Cool. Yeah, now I'm getting to that quintessential slide. I mean, basically, I think for me, it was a long process of discovery, of really following your intuitions. Because basically when I started, and that was now 14 years ago, there was only a very, very small creative coding scene. Everything was much more simple, way less advanced. certain techniques like camera tracking was a little bit like knowing magic. There were only 5 people in the world that knew how to do camera tracking really well, and maybe only 2 that did it properly in this interactive space, for example. So it was a very, very small underground community, I guess. And initially, I had no clue that it even exists. So my background essentially is I either wanted to be a painter or a graphic designer, and then I did a lot of skateboarding. And somehow these 3 ingredients, they came together. I think as a graphic designer, I guess, when you're a student, you try to think about, okay, what is my style? What new thing am I going to bring into this world? And I think it's a really important question to think about, but it can also be quite frustrating, I guess, because at some point you look at everything that's before you and you say, well, look at all these amazing things. How can I possibly add something? And to me, it was that, for example, graphic design, that in itself, no one needs another font. I mean, yes, if you have that particular ingredient, you can make something really amazing. I'm not discrediting anything, but I realized that maybe that's not my way to add something new. So what I started kind of is at some point getting a little bit distracted and venturing out into sort of adjacent fields, like other areas that were really interesting to me, like computer vision or interactivity, and sound and artificial life. Like there was like a lot of cool stuff going on, and I actually might have a little video. The one thing I have prepared. There you go. Maybe this can play in the background. So things like this, they are like computer science research experiments from the 80s. This particular one is about genetic algorithms, how you can basically evolve things that look like creatures from nature, from just a simple formula of you have a number of different limbs, you have a genetic code that defines how this animal is like created and how it moves, and you measure how far can it move in 30 seconds. And then you just let the simulation run 1,000,000 times, and you change. If you go a little bit further, you change it, and so the simulation kind of gets optimized, and over time it generates amazing things that have a life that no animator, no designer, no one would think of this, right? It would be too much work. It would be you wouldn't have some stupid ideas, and in the end, even though it's just code, it comes back with something like lifelike and humane. That is, I think, incredibly fascinating. So I think
What year did you mention that these early studies were made?
I mean, I think this example is maybe 83. Maybe I'm getting. I probably should look this up properly. I think it's not 83. Don't want to say anything wrong, but it's I think in the 90s or something. It's really early days.
It's funny because it reminds me. Recently, I was watching this kind of like a new AI from NVIDIA in the video games, and this is how it looks. All the creatures while they're learning how to do stuff, right? Like they're just like very sloppy, and they just run this AI, and like after a few minutes, and after some days, and after a month, and after they became really smart. And it's incredible, and I can see these type of creatures as well. Your work in all the stuff you guys have been working the past years, right?
So if I jump back to my other slide, if that works. Oh, there we go. So basically, this slide here is kind of the cover page from my master's thesis. Oh, hey Martin. That we wrote. It's in German, and basically this. What I realized is that, hey, okay, I'm in love with design and visual arts. That's my center. That's here at the center. But there's all these other really exciting influences, and if you like interactivity and life and generative design, and basically any anywhere in between those ingredients, there's a lot of space to discover new ideas and some real potential for some real amazing stuff. So I think we essentially drew this map, and because it's a two-dimensional area, we called it field, and essentially the studio, that's the name, and it's dedicated to exploring these ingredients and how they can be relevant for design.
So when you were like making this studio, so is it was just by yourself, and it was like you and some other friends, and how like, and how many people is now in the studio
I
after?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, originally I finished it with my partner at the time, Vera Maria Glan, who's co-founder of the studio. We went to London together, and like for the first 5-6 years or so of the studio, it was just two of us. We were literally starting in kind of a bedroom or a living room here in London Fields, and then moved to a shared office. And I actually didn't want to start a studio. It wasn't really my intention. Like, I literally just wanted to be, be a designer and create amazing things. And I think the studio kind of came a bit later when you realized, well, like I like to design the entire experience. And I think maybe my initial focus was like I was very code and like generative orientated, but you then realize, you look at projects when they have finished and you think, I wish we also did the sound. I wish we also did, had more control of things. And that's how you slowly move towards building a bigger team around you, because ideas are becoming more ambitious as well. And yeah, that's the foundations, I think, of the studio.
And how many people are in the studio right now? Like
yeah, I think at the moment we're 25, around 25 full time, and there's usually a good amount of freelancers around. So I'd say between 25, 35, and we're all spread out all over Europe. So that's quite a nice thing in my view. Let me share something else here. Yeah. So I guess now we would say we are this kind of initial impulse to research became being a innovation studio or design and innovation studio. Here's a few pictures, I guess, from the life itself. That's the place I'm at now. Since Brexit, we're all over Europe, but two headquarters in Berlin and in London, but we also have people in all these cities, and we're about 25 artists and designers, and roughly organized in 4 different teams. I mean, sometimes it's all mixed up. It's really depending on the project, but there's also a lot of individuality and like different creative leads and different creative directors have different preferences and skills. And here's some pictures from various cooking events. Yeah, that's it. So that's the field in a nutshell.
Okay, so for those who are just tuning in right now, so we're talking with Phil, and you have a trailer around that we wanted to play back, and I think it will be a great moment to check it out. and to see where you guys have been up to in the last years.
Okay.
Nice. Really nice,
Yeah.
really nice. So I have an interesting question for you.
I just realized
Uh,
this is the show reel from 2015, by the way. I shared the wrong file.
oh, really? No,
But anyways,
this looks really new to me. But
sorry,
I have
yeah.
a fun question for you. So how how do you guys convince to your clients to make these risky, visuals and proposals? Because they're like extremely artistic and abstract at the same time, and it's hard, right, to convince a client to say like, you know what, we have this concept, we have this idea, and they say to you like, like, okay, let's go for it.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, for what I see from your work is like, it's very the
No, no,
concepts
I
are
mean,
really
I know what you mean. Let's,
I know what
yeah. Just kidding. No, but the thing is, I think we I discussed this with someone a while ago, and I think back then they phrased it a little bit like, "How do you educate your clients?"
yeah,
This
correct,
way,
correct, correct.
and I think it's a question of reframing it, because that doesn't work. So I think let's say no one is gonna take. Oh, you still there? No one is gonna take a risk just because you say so. So I think it's important that you take that risk or this first step yourself in your practice or in your studio. You put some projects out there that kind of prove the point. And in German, we have this term Gestaltungswille. Like literally, it's a bit brutal, but it means like the willpower to design, to make something, to put something into this world. So, and I'm not saying all the time, but eventually there are moments when you need to say, okay, this is my thing. I'm going to put my stake in the ground, and I'm just going to do this regardless of how bad the budget is or the timings or whatever the conditions. Don't, they're never right. They're never right for it. So sometimes you just have to say, okay, let's go for it. And you do that. Usually you find all kinds of resistance and people are going to discourage you and say, no, it can't happen. It's too expensive or this and that. But sometimes you just have to do it. And in hindsight, people will be thankful. People will say, oh, that was actually quite a good project. And the next client, the next one then they just look at the website and they see the like polished documentation and they think, oh, yeah, okay, that's my expectation. That's what I get when I go there. So like literally convincing someone is can be difficult. There's maybe a 50-50 percent chance it goes wrong. It happens all the time. But I think what you can do is you can sort of put yourself into a lane that you think is that's what you want to do, and somehow things will fall into place. I think that's.
And one other thing that I was also, like talking with the students from the HQ is that somehow it's very important to have your own projects from the studio. Like personal projects. Those are the most valuable. And this is kind of like the secret recipe of a lot of the studios that I know, including yours. Like the very own project that you guys have doing for yourself as an artistic studio as well. Those are the ones who are the clients also as well. They see them and they say like, "Oh, I want something like this. I want Phil to make something artistic for me," and then it's kind of like a thing that it's been connecting from one to the other. I don't know if you want to talk about this, and probably you would like to share some of those kind of examples projects to the community as well.
How to best answer that? I mean, yeah, I think it has always been. Let me show you. So the thing, I told you that story about my mentor here in London. We did this first crazy interactive project. The thing is, before that, I was basically a graphic designer and a web designer or web developer, and it had not clicked that you could put these two things together and do something with it. That wasn't a thing. So at some point, I knew how to create simulations and particles and those things, and we made a pretty cheesy like Christmas campaign with it. But then little bit later, it was like at some like 2 a.m. or so, I had this idea. Hey, what if I take these particles and I trace them around typography and I create like a poster with particles made from light, creating the font essentially. And that was probably my first ever generative thing I've ever made. So it's a little bit old.
This is great. What year was that?
Don't know. Is the sound coming through? Just wondering.
Sound? No, we don't hear any sound.
Okay, then no worries. Yeah, so this was like 2007 or something like that, or maybe 2008. Oh, 7. There you go. So literally, this was like super low level. I think I was working in Java and Eclipse, and all the physics were created from scratch. And figuring out how to do anything, you had to spend a few months building an interface first to create sliders and really trivial things. So it was like a long way. I mean, obviously now you can do that in 5 minutes in Houdini or less. But I think it's that research that was important, and going out and learning new things. And in a way, at the time, that just wasn't a thing people would do. People were still pretty much in a static mindset, I guess. And I think that's what was interesting. So always trying to explore like new possibilities and what can you do with that, new experiences. Yeah, that gives me personally a kick, and I think is also what creates the culture in the studio.
And I have a question about because I've been also having a studio myself in the past, and the more you start making works, the more you start choosing your clients and choosing your projects. At the beginning, like you just take everything that you can take, but nowadays, the more you start growing up as a professionist, and also as a creative, the more you choose the stuff that you want to do and you don't want to do. And I wanted to ask you, how do you guys choose the work that you want to do or not? Is it something that right now you're also choosing some clients? Is it how's this kind of workflow, working with these big brands? Because right now you guys are working with, the most bigger brands that are in the world, from Meta to different kind of different people around, and it must be really stressful, difficult, but at the same time very, very great to start working with these type of projects as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I obviously enjoy that, and that's why we chose to make it a profession. I guess I just recently had a realization that, obviously now I'm obviously a singular person, but I'm representing a studio, and something that is maybe something I've done 20 different times, and maybe less exciting, can still be an interesting experience for younger members of the team to take on their own first project and really make something they've never done before. So I think I'm really also today thinking a lot about the team and the studio and what's beneficial for the entire experience. Obviously, what pays all the salaries, but also what can push us into new directions or adds another dimension to what we're doing. So, like we were basically did a big part of this whole Meta relaunch, and what was exciting to me is to not just work on the logo and the motion design and launch in that, but we spent about a year and a half later working on the physical formats. Like, how does it become real in their spaces, in their HQs? What is the meta version of the metaverse? How do interactive experiences feel like, and all these things? And you create this really big world of, perspectives. And there's like a consistent aesthetic thread through all of them. So I think that's something that is fun to me personally, to kind of see this more like comprehensive view. More drones. I can show some drones.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Do you see this? There you go. Yeah, so we like to use drones in every scenario, every whenever possible. Like in between these, some pictures we took in Death Valley and California. We had a big field trip, and I can share a little bit more. But we also use drones indoors for entertainment. Don't know if you hear the sound, but yeah, I think I think I consider myself an amateur photographer only, but I think it's always nice to get out of the studio and literally, yeah, do things in the real world and then bring it back, have some real experiences. It creates great bonding experiences with the team. For example, when you're standing on the top of a mountain and you delete your SD card with everything you shot on that day, and it's pitch dark. It's something you will never forget.
Damn.
But I mean, likely also pretty amazing things. But yeah, it goes in all directions.
Okay, so before we continue, I want to make a quick pause here to tell you a little bit more about where we are. So right now, you guys are tuning the HQ. So, and we are you to join the Interactive and Immersive HQ Pro, which is the only school for immersive designers, creative technologies, and touch designer artists and developers. In the school, there is over 60 full touch designer and creative technology video courses, which is like more than 170 plus hours. We also have a private Facebook group with coaches and peers, experts like Elburs and Matthew Reagan. And we also have some private accelerator sessions, workshops, and also we are going to give you away a 7-day free trial for the HQ Pro. So the link is below. And now that we have been talking about this, let's go back to Marcus. All right. So I'm interested about your latest developments on and your latest kind of like research with AI. Like this is a very trending topic that is like very hot right now. And you guys have a very specific way to approach technology. Like I've seen every time there is a new technology, your view of that technology, it's totally way artistic. Like the way you come up with a project or something new, it tends to have this kind of like artistic approach, which is the thing that seems to be very interesting for me. And can you share to us more about like how do you approach to this process, and how do you approach also to this like upcoming trend topic, which is the AI?
Okay, so what we think about AI and how we go about learning, approaching new topics in general.
Yeah.
I think maybe in general, I think you have to be self-motivated, right? It is something that really keeps us awake, and we're always like interested in figuring out some new developments. And we have a very active internal group where we share all the latest research. And I'm in my hobby time, I read some AI papers, and I'm quite fascinated by what's going on. I don't understand it, but I'm keeping up with it, and it's I think that's one thing. You have to have the interest, and then the second thing is we often then start some field explorations where we say, okay, there's no big pressure necessarily to make this into anything just yet, but let's just play around. And maybe, usually someone already has an idea about something, and I think maybe the thing you're referring to, which is our next piece for the Digital Impact Show in Barcelona, where you're also invited. We had basically a kind of an incident where in 2019 or so, we had an invitation for a big digital art piece in Shanghai. I got super excited. I was in love with the work from Ian Sheng, who has this like lovely idea of creating worlds in Unity simulations, and they're very emergent and generative worlds. I thought that was super cool. We shared, and we created a piece. Where is it? Called Theater X, and then it kind of looked like that, which was like a simulation of the world inside of a Unity engine. And the idea was that we have shifting continents, moving tectonic plates, and we basically wanted to show vast amounts of time and how this thing that we consider static is constantly changing and shifting, and maybe also dissolving into a sort of digital version of itself. And I think that was great. We had sound design from a friend of mine, Jamie, who's also co-sound designer on Blade Runner, and some amazing. It was a really great work. I was quite proud of at the time. But the moment we installed everything and literally flew back, where is it? COVID broke out. So the moment it was ready, we basically had COVID. We got shut down. We never saw the piece live. We never had like an opening. and it was just put back into the drawer, and really a bit frustrating, I guess, after all this work. So now when we had an invitation for another show, we said, okay, let's take this piece again and let's say update it with a new perspective of what can we do today. And there's obviously, when you work with games engines, they're great for some things and they're really terrible at others, where it's really difficult to, you never have enough detail. You always want more detail. You always want more things. So what we then realized is that, okay, what really made this piece work is this kind of combination of kind of slow, kind of heavy motion of these like earth plates, and kind of the kind of slow motion camera, which kind of gives it a certain gravitas. So the idea then was to let's kind of reuse this work, but what's great now, obviously, with AI is you can not just use prompts, but you can also create and fine-tune your own custom models. And we're just quite lucky with this concept where the kind of aerial bird's eye perspective and a lot of great data sets that we can find, they match up. So the perspective we have in the Unity engine is quite complementary. So now we can take our Unity world and re-render it essentially with some new types of landscapes. Some are maybe more abstract than others, but you can have, like, we can really bring in this story that back in the day we had this idea of this trying to tell the story about the world changing, but obviously that's a lot more powerful when you have like real photographs of landscapes transforming from green to deserts to lakes drying up and cities sprawling and rivers created and all these kind of things. Like and see, I'm a painter again. So now finally this is coming together.
Yeah, I have to tell you, like I saw it this morning. Well, I mean, like a preview, right? Because I was in Digital Impact in the montage today, this morning in Barcelona, and it's looking great. Like and you told me, like, no, that is a preview, still not the piece. It was this incredible, and I really like this kind of like strange landscapes, that it seems to be evolving, and it seems to be forever changing and making this type of on like very unique look. And this is like the combination between understanding a technology, which is AI, but also making something artistic, but also giving a point of view from a photographer perspective, like, because somehow those type of pictures looks like a drone takes from a landscape from above. And this is what is really interesting from what I saw this morning in the exhibition.
Cool. Well, I'm glad it works. I mean, we were joking. Real time means it's going to be produced in real time for the opening of the show. So, the final film is still rendering on the machines behind me. But I'm glad we have something already. That's okay.
Yeah, it's working. I have to say that it's working. So we're gonna jump to some of the questions on the out there, because there is a lot of people that is tuning right now, and I don't get to see the chat, but maybe we can like maybe I can get those questions around here, because somehow my chat is not loading. So I'm sorry, guys.
The first one is generating this entirely in Houdini or Unity, and then Unity. Well, it was first in landscapes in Houdini, then into Unity, then into Stable Diffusion, and then into various post-processing tools. I think it's a long pipeline now, but yeah,
it's
pretty key.
it looks.
how do you figure out bids for contracts? Is that like how much you should charge for, or what do you think is the question?
Wait, can you put that again? That question, please.
Yeah. How do you figure out bids for contracts? Well, I think fundamentally we look at the concept and time and effort and what does it take, and you do your best to create an estimate for what do you think it's going to need for the team that you need, and the number of different features and number of different scenes and so on. So I guess it's a big calculation, and based on experience.
And it also depends of the project, right? Like if it is an outside installation, or if it is something that it's visual.
I mean, I don't know, maybe this question might have another angle, which is, I think we try to either do our own projects or we do a paid project, but you try to avoid the middle ground in between, where it's like, do something kind of good. You know what I mean? I'd rather work for free and on something that I really believe in, or you're very clear. I want to be clear from the beginning. This is a cultural project. All right, that's fine. This is for a big brand. Okay.
Yeah, and what would be the advice for young creators that are just like starting in this field, and they're looking to your studio or to someone in the industry, so like, I want to be like these guys, like I want to have this?
I mean, I think we live in this world where there's too much of everything already, like in terms of media, right? Like in the sort of general creative and media industry, there is like everything's an endless feed. You can't possibly watch all of it. So I think figuring out what you're really interested in and how you connect to others, and what makes your particular approach different. I think that is the quintessential and question, and you probably always have to come back to it again and again. But it is so important to really give it some thought, and be quite honest with yourself as well. So
actually, I was going to add, on what you're saying, is that like I'm going to retake what we were mentioning before about having your own personal process studio. This is something very vital, like in the way you progress, like the type of work, because you do more research, you experiment without, like experimenting in a client's project that probably if you fail with a client, it will be worse than you fail to you, right? That's something that is really interesting. And I wanted to ask you really quick, like how many projects, personal projects, because I know you guys do a lot of personal projects as an artistic, do a year?
I can't give you an exact number because some things are bigger, some are smaller, but I can say consistently we have usually done at least one big personal creative project, which involves like a number of the team, like at least 4 or 5 people or so. So that's we always make an investment. I think that's quite important. But then there's like other ideas, like I want to have start a new fashion label, and
and actually, another question here is, what makes someone stand out when you're looking for an intern or a postgrad student?
Maybe I would reframe that question as well. It's like, we're just a small, limited number of people. Like we get a number of applications, and if we're a little bit slow in replying, it does not mean that you do not stand out. It might just really be that we are really busy and we just don't have the capacity. And then what makes someone stand out is, I think you can just have like a good attitude. You know if you click with someone through it's subtle things like the email, and I think there is a cultural fit, and then it's a question of is this something that we currently see a potential for in the studio, that it's helpful. So like I would love to do more things in Unreal Engine, but right now we actually do not do an Unreal Engine project right now, and so I don't want to waste your time either. So so I think it has to be a good two-way relationship. So that's what we think about. If it looks like it makes sense for you and for us, and you bring in some valuable skills that we can maybe also help develop, then that's good. I'm a fan of the T model, by the way. The learn one thing and be really, really good at it, and then try lots of other things. So I think that's I'd rather have someone who's really a great graphic designer and does nothing interactive, but brings in that perspective.
So
okay.
One more about budget. Oh my god, a lot of people are asking about.
Okay, quick one. No, they most budgets are actually flexible and variable. You'll see.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Okay,
Interested
so
in exhibiting in Asia? Sure.
always that's part
Yeah.
of the. So I don't see the chat question, but if you can check it out, or maybe if I get
More about
here the
drones. We had that one. Any work done in Africa? No, ashamedly not. I would like to do more work in Africa.
Yeah. Cool. So finally, what's next for you guys? Like, what are you up to?
Cool. Well, I think there's some things that we don't have on our website yet, which I'm quite excited to launch into the public soon. You might have seen that it used to be field.io for the longest time, and now we have like 3 fields, field systems. And what we realized is to get some of our interactive projects off the ground and make them more worthwhile for clients, and just to get more out of it, we would build things in a more modular way. So more like a design system that we did this interactive piece for on running. It started in one store in New York, and now it's traveled 25 times to 25 different cities. And every single time we made adaptations, but kept the core similar. And we had a really good integration with the architecture. So it looks like 25 different pieces, which is, we live in a time where budgets are a bit more constrained and clients are a bit more cautious. So yeah, finding ways how you get a lot of value out for them is great, and also branding consistency. So for them, this one interactive thing we did really became a part of their brand identity, which is really nice to see. Now they put it everywhere. So I think that's the future for us, is to not just always make a project and then throw it away and start from scratch and do another one, but how can we build something where we incrementally build a platform that is valuable and add one more thing to it, one more feature. I think my next company is going to be a software company or something like
that. Nice. And okay, so website, as you guys know, field.io, also social media. It's there, Instagram, field _ io. And thanks a lot, Marcus, for joining the session today. We're super happy that you could make it, and see you in Barcelona soon. See you in a few days at Digital Impact. So, maybe we can put the link to the exhibition as well. So if you want also to follow the exhibition, which you guys going to be presented this incredible AI piece that you are cooking, and it's going to be ready right on time. right? Okay, so thanks a lot, guys.
Well,
See you
thanks
soon.
for having me, and yeah, thanks for everyone tuning in. Cheers. See you in Barcelona.
See you in Barcelona.